I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'll have our media services play the acknowledgement of the traditional lands, please.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig and Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the land, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you, Mark. We're now going to go on to approval of the agenda. Can I have someone put this on the floor? I got so many volunteers. So Trustee Clark will put it on the floor, seconded by Trustee Benjamin. All those in favor of the agenda in front of us? So pass. We'll move on to anyone have a declaration of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. So we have from our meeting back in August, seems like a long time ago, the Governance and Policy Committee meeting of August 27. So I have Trustee Elves. Can you put this on the floor? Seconded by Trustee McDonald online. Okay. Any questions or comments about the governance meeting minutes? Great. Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes? Okay, so passed. We have no delegations tonight, and we have just 2 staff reports. So I'd like to start at 7.1, the trustee honorarium policy of 2024-2025 presented by our governance officer.
Thank you, and through the chair, today we are discussing the revisions to the trustee honoraria policy in accordance with Ontario Regulation 35706, which governs the calculation of honoraria for school board trustees. This policy must be established by October 15th of the year preceding the new term and updated annually based on enrollment numbers. The revised policy will apply from this November 15th, 2024 until November 14th, 2025, and it includes specific honorarium amounts for student trustees as outlined in Ontario Regulation 707. And for your comparison, the existing policy for the upcoming term, or this past term, November 15th, 2023 to November 14th, 2024, is included as Appendix B. Also, it's important to note, looking ahead, Ontario Regulation 31124 will introduce a provision for reducing a trustee's honorarium by up to 25%, and that would be in cases of breaches of the board's code of conduct. Once this regulation is effective, both the trustee honoraria policy and the code of conduct will be brought back to this committee, and the amendment to that regulation is going to be proclaimed on January 1st, 2025. And that is my report, Chair.
Thank you so much. So let's put this on the floor so we can talk about it. Trustee Bailey online, do you put it on the floor?
Yes.
Thank you. And Trustee Clark, would you second that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that it's on the floor, does anyone have any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Trustee Elves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I don't see it here. Apologies if I've missed it. Do we know how much we're going down from your prior? Like it's in merit value, dollars?
$300. The appendix there, it's 27.8 something. There's 27,544, and it's from 2852. So
The Appendix B.
yeah, it's an appendix down at the bottom. Scroll down, so you'll see 27,852.
We're down about $1 a day.
Thank you very much. Apologies, I didn't notice the appendix. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's about $300. $1 a day.
$1 a day.
Yeah. Okay, any other great questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of this so passed, and we'll have this at the next board meeting for approval. Now we'll go on to our next agenda item. It's electronic monitoring policy. This will be presented by so it's going to be Thomas Chung, who's going to be presenting that today. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, and through you, Chair McDonald. This is a small amendment to our electronic monitoring policy. If your trustees will recall, in the spring, we approved the business case for GPS installation in our board-owned vehicles. As such, we've amended this section. It's section 4.5, section E, which will be adding GPS to the electronic monitoring practices. And that's the only addition to this policy. And glad to take any questions.
So let's put this on the floor. Trustee Benjamin, do you want to put it on the floor? Seconded by Trustee Alves. So any comments or questions do we have on this? Seeing none, I'll just ask one. How much is this intended, this will cost, or is this just put in the policy and then we'll figure out if we're going to do it board wide on every vehicle?
The business case was to be installed board wide in all our trade vehicles primarily. There are approximately 74 vehicles, if I recall correctly. This has been looked at several times over the last, I would say, 10 years. And I think approximate cost is about $400 to $500 per vehicle with an annual maintenance fee for the software.
Yes, Trustee Benjamin, please.
So you mean to say that the monitoring is going to be done? I mean, you're going to put a camera or something inside the vehicle, or is it, what is it? How does it work?
So through you, Chair McDonald. The software basically just tracks locations. It'll track speed. And it'll track the primary goal of this, of course, is that safe driving practices and make our vehicles more efficient. The system does have capability for geofencing to track areas of work, but the primary goal, of course, is safe driving, particularly if we get complaints sometimes from the public. We want to make sure that not only we're protecting the public, we're also protecting our own drivers sometimes, that the data is cleared. All our buses have it now currently, right? So it's just an addition to that.
Thank you.
There are no cameras. Sorry,
Thank you.
Chair.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a good question. I think it's like I'm an intact. I have the app. Now, whether I have the app on my phone, it's tracking I'm a good driver or a bad driver, right? Which is good. I think because it apparently lowers my rates, right? Because we're in a theft capital apparently in Canada. I don't think people are stealing our vans with the big Peel logo. But I guess that's another use case if it ever comes up.
So through you, Chair, I've been in this area for about 25 years. I've not heard of any of our vehicles being stolen. I know that story.
Wonderful. That's good to know. Any other comments or questions? Okay, then since it's on the floor, we're going to put it to a vote. All those in receipt approval of this new policy or updated policy? So be it passed. Thank you. Thank you. And now we'll move on to trustee motions of no consideration, which we have none. We have no communications or trustees notice of motion. So we're going to go for adjournment. So Trustee McDonald, do you want to put this on the floor for adjournment? Yes. And Trustee Bailey, do I get a second?
Absolutely.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
I don't know.
Wow. Thank you.